Okay, so now that we have some work with multiplying a binomial, trinomial by a monomial, now what we're going to work on is we're going to be working on multiplying two binomials. And how we do that is we use the FOIL method is what it's called. And so to multiply binomials, you distribute each term in the first binomial to each term in the second binomial. So what we're going to do is it's called first, outer, inner, last. So what we do is we take the first term in my first binomial, so that's term A. We multiply it to term C, so that's the first, and then we multiply it to the outer, which is D. So we get AC plus AD. Then what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the second term, which is our outer term technically, and we multiply it to our inner term and then our last. So first to our inner and our last, and then first to our outer to our inner, and then our outer to our last. It makes more sense kind of as we're going through it. But if we go through and we look at our multiplying our binomials, we're going to take x squared to x squared, or we're going to take x times x, which gets me x squared. Then we're going to take x times 4, which gets me plus 4x. Now that we've done our top one, so first to our inner and our last, now we're going to take our outer, which is our 2, to our inner to get 2x, and then 2 times 4 to our last, which is 8. So now we have 4 terms. So when you multiply two binomials, you should get 4 terms total. And then what you're going to do is you're going to simplify. So x squared doesn't simplify with anything, so you get x squared. 4x plus 2x gets me 6x. And then 8 doesn't have anything to combine with. So when I multiply two binomials, I got a trinomial here. That's going to work most of the time and happen most of the time, but sometimes things are going to cancel out. But when we multiply two binomials, we're going to get 4 terms, which then we simplify down. Okay? So there's our first example. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at our next example. So I have my first term, which is 2x. So I'm going to take 2x times x and 2x times negative 5. Well, that's going to get me 2x squared, and then that's going to get me a minus 10x. Now I'm going to get 1 times x, which is, because now I'm doing the second one, I've done twice on the top, now I'm going to do twice on the bottom. I'm going to get plus x or 1x. You can write it either way. You'll see it most commonly done as x. And then 1 times negative 5, which is minus 5. Well, I'm going to leave it with 2x squared because that doesn't combine with anything. Negative 10x plus x gets me a minus 9x. And then I just write 9 there because that doesn't combine with anything either. Okay, now that I have that first one done, these first two examples, that's what we have going on there. Okay, so now that we have that going on, what I'm going to have us do is I'm going to have us look at some more examples. And the other thing that I want to point out is if you look at these two examples, my first and last term didn't combine with anything. It's these two middle terms that we get are always going to combine with each other. Okay, that's what's going to happen there. So now if we look at a few more examples, I want you guys to try some of these. I want you to try number 1 and 2 on your own and see what you get. Okay, so pause the video and try to work through that. So now that you've come back to this video, you should have taken y times y to get y squared, y times 1 to get 1y or y. So there's my top. Now on my bottom, I'm going to take 8 times y to get 8y, and 8 times 1 to get 8. I leave my y squared alone, combine my two middle terms to get 9y, and I leave my last term alone to get 8. Okay, so there we go on there. That's what you should have gotten. If you didn't and you're confused, message me and we'll walk through it together. Now on the next one, I'm going to take k times k to get k squared. I'm going to take k times 5 to get 5k. I'm going to get negative 4 times k to get a minus 4k. And I'm going to take negative 4 times 5 to get a minus 20. Combine those two middle terms to get k squared plus k, because 5 minus 4 is 1, and then minus 20, and that's that answer you should have gotten. Okay, if you're like, oh, okay, this is kind of starting to make sense, I want you to, you can skip example 3 and then move on to number 4, but we're going to go through and keep doing some more here. So on number 3, pause the video and go ahead if you need some more practice to try those out there, okay? Well, what we're going to do is that now you can play it to check your answer. So we're going to take x times x to get x squared, and then x times negative 4 to get minus 4x. Now I'm on the bottom, minus 10x, because negative 10 times x is minus 10x, and then negative 10 times 4 is going to give me a plus 40. Combine those middle two terms, so now I get x squared minus 14x plus 40. And there we have that. Okay, so far I should kind of now starting to piece together a little bit more. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to take x times x on this next one to continue to get x squared, x times negative 2 to get a minus 2x, 2 times x to get a plus 2x, and 2 times negative 2 to get a minus 4. Well, I'm going to get an x squared. Now if I look, I have a minus 2x and a plus 2x. Well, those two things end up canceling each other out to get 0. So then I'm going to get a minus 4. So I have x squared minus 4, and that's going to be my final answer there. So sometimes our middle terms will cancel each other out. Okay? That will happen, and that is just fine. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look through these next 6 examples down here. If you're like, yep, I totally understand what we're doing, I don't have any questions, go ahead and flip on over to the back side and we'll talk, and you can pick up at number 15, it looks like, okay? Well, now for the rest of us who want to continue practicing some of these, we're going to get 4x times x to get 4x squared. I'm going to get 4x times 3 to get 12x. I'm going to get negative 7 times x to get negative 7x. And then negative 7 plus times 3 to get a negative 21. 4x squared doesn't combine with anything. 12x minus 7x combines to get me a 5x. And then 21 doesn't combine with anything, so I just write minus 21. And that should be your final answer there. Okay, so far so we should be feeling okay. Don't forget, this one had this number out in front. Well, 4x times 1x, 4 times 1 is 4, which is how we got that 4 there, just so we know. And that similarly happens on all these other ones. I have 1n times 5n. Well, that gets me a 5n squared. 1n times negative 4 gets me a minus 4n. Negative 1 times 5n gets me a minus 5n. Negative 1 times negative 4 gets me a positive 4. Combine my middle terms, so I get 5n squared minus 9n plus 4. And there's your answer there. Okay. On my next one now. When you multiply, I'm going to get 3y times 3y. Well, that's going to get me a 9y squared. I'm going to take 3y times 2 to get me a 6y. 1 times 3y gets me 3y. And then 1 times 2 gets me 2. Combine those middle terms, so your final answer should be 9y squared plus 9y plus 2. Sorry if you hear Kimber in the background whining. She wants to go play in the snow. Okay, on your next one, for your final answer, what you should get is you should get 12a squared plus 22a plus 6. If you're not sure how you got that answer, double check your multiplication, message me and I can walk you through that. Number 9 for your final answer, you should have gotten 24h squared minus 17h and then plus 3. If you didn't get that final answer, go back and double check and make sure you multiplied those negatives properly and everything looks good there. And now for this final one. This one's one of our special ones because when I multiply, you're going to get 9w squared minus 3w plus 3w minus 1. And so this is when my middle terms cancel each other out to get a 9w squared minus 1 for my final answer. Okay, so we are good to go to flip. We've practiced some foiling, binomials by binomials, and so now we're on the back side here. I'll give you the answers for 11 through 14. If you want to check those on your own, you for sure can go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to pick back up on number 15 there. Okay, so on number 15, or on number 11, excuse me, you should have gotten 5x squared minus xy minus 4y squared. This is actually one that you might want to go through now that we're looking at it because it has two variables involved there. And so what happens is I have 5x times x to get me that 5x squared, 5x times y to give me a, and it's times a negative y, so that's going to give me a minus 5xy. Now I have 4y times x to give me a positive 4xy. And then I have a 4y times a negative y, which is going to give me a minus 4y squared. So you combine those two in the middle to get that term there. Okay? Same thing now with this next one on number 12. 2a times a gets me a 2a squared. 2a times negative 4b gets me a minus 8ab. 5b times a gets me a plus 5ab. And 5b times negative 4b gets me a negative 20b squared. Combine my middle terms, so I'm going to get a final answer of 2a squared minus 3ab minus 20b squared. Okay, and that's my final answer right there. On my other ones now, what I have going on is that similar thing. So for a final answer on here, you're going to get a 4r squared minus s squared. And what happens again on this one is those middle terms canceled out. So when you multiply, you're going to get 4r squared plus, minus 2rs plus 2rs, and then minus s squared. So these two right here in the middle canceled each other out there. Okay, now on here, what we have going on is when you multiplied and simplified, you should have gotten 28c squared minus cd minus 2d squared. So we have that one there. Now, these last four are a little bit special in the sense that we have a squared. So it says x plus 4 squared. Well, what does a squared actually mean? Well, a squared means we're actually just multiplying that thing by itself. So I'm going to rewrite this. So I'm going to get x plus 4 times x plus 4. And now this looks like all the other problems that we just did. So I take x times x to get x squared, x times 4 to get plus 4x, 4 times x to get plus 4x, 4 times 4 to get 16. Combine those middle terms, so I'm going to get x squared plus 8x since they're both positive, and then plus 16. And that would be your final answer there. Okay? So now we're going to do that same exact thing with these other three problems. So I have p minus 7 squared, so this is actually p minus 7 times p minus 7. Okay? So here's what we're going to then do. Same exact process. P times p gets me p squared. P times 7 gets me a minus 7p. Negative 7 times p gets me a minus 7p. Negative 7 times negative 7 gets me a positive 49. Combine those like terms, they're both negative, so I have p squared minus 14p plus 49. And that would be your final answer there. Okay, I want you guys to pause the video, and I want you guys to try number 17 and 18. Okay, now that you've come back and you worked on these ones, you're going to rewrite that as 2m minus 5 times 2m minus 5. And when you multiply, you're going to get that 4m squared minus 10m minus 10m plus 25. You're going to add those middle terms, and you're going to end your final answer of 4m squared minus 20m and then plus 25. There's your final answer there. Okay. And now on your last one, you rewrite that as a plus 3b times a plus 3b. I'm going to multiply to get a squared. I honestly have to draw these lines out, you guys. Otherwise, I tend to miss something. So don't feel bad if you have to. Plus 3ab plus 3ab plus 9b squared. Make sure you look out for that. Combine those middle terms, so I'm going to get a squared plus 6ab plus 9b squared, and that's my final answer. So I feel like I've thrown a lot at you guys, so what I want us to do is I want us just to work on these problems. So on homework 3, what I want you guys to do is I just want you for today, Wednesday, do numbers 1 through 18. Okay, that's all I want you guys to focus on. And then those are the two things that we're going to have for Friday or Thursday's assignment. You're working on yesterday's and you're working on today's. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to message me on Teams and we'll set up a time to chat together. Okay, bye.